Hi, everybody in third and fourth grade. It's another Wednesday virtual computer class, and we have been talking about a website Scratch. We started last week. I'm going to try to make today's video a little shorter. Last week's went on a little longer than I had hoped because there was a lot of information. And today we're going to be using Scratch, that website, a little bit more. I have a couple of quick notes, quick things to say before we actually start doing that. The very first thing is if you are doing computer class today, but you missed last week, you didn't do last week, you didn't finish last week, you didn't look at what we had last week, what you really need to do right now is go back and do last week's work. Even if that's all that you do for today, you really can't do the parts today, and that's going to continue for the next couple of weeks. If you go to next week, or today, next week, the week after, and you say, Mr. Henderson, I don't understand anything that's going on, and I didn't do the previous classes, each one kind of builds off of the previous one, or each one has information that you would need to know from the previous class, the previous lesson. So if you miss any, you need to go back. They're all available in Google Classroom. All of the videos are available, and you need to make up what you missed so that you understand what's happening. And for the people who did use Scratch last week in third and fourth grade, you should know two main things to start. That is, how your username and password works for Scratch, and also how to get to the site and sign in. I'll very quickly say our Scratch logins are the same as Google, but without the at weymouthtsd.org. You leave that part off, right? So yours might look like 24 Gregory J, and as that applies to your name and your grade level, and then your Scratch password. Every single person's Scratch password is exactly the same as their Google password. So the one that you use to sign into Google, the one that you use to sign into the Chromebook, that is the same password in Scratch. There are a couple people, like I said, and actually this video, I'm sorry, is for third and fourth grade. So for third and fourth grade, it's only Morgan Lechner that I would need you to remember that you add an extra letter to your last name, and that is just because that username, the one with just Morgan L, was already taken in Scratch when I went to create them. Okay, now getting to the website. I wanted to show you very quickly that I went to go to the website right before I started making this video, and this screen popped up that said, looks like we're having issues with our servers. And I wanted to tell you guys that this does happen once in a while. Sometimes you'll go to the Scratch website, you'll see this happen, and you don't say, oh no, I can't do this, oh no, this website's not working. It's usually very temporary meaning like for a second or a couple seconds. I'm going to press my refresh button right here, and after I press refresh, it should work just fine, and there it does. Now, we remember from last week that here is the sign in button right here where you type in your username, your password, and sign in. And now today, the couple things that I want to mention before we actually get started continuing to learn about how Scratch Scratch works is that Scratch automatically saves everything that you do. When we went last week, and there are people who aren't going to pay attention to this and tell me they have something different. When we went last week, we were creating something brand new, right? A brand new original Scratch creation. So we went to this create button. And a lot of kids, they remember that, so they go to click on the create button every time we go to use Scratch. However, today, we're going to continue using that same project that we started before, the same one we started last week. And so what that means is we're not going to click create. We're going to go to this folder icon right here. See this folder icon? I'm going to click it, and that's going to show you all of the projects that you've worked on. And for most of you, it's just going to be the one that we started last week. Alright, so after I clicked on that folder icon, you can see I actually have tons of projects, and maybe sometime we could see some that I've did in the past with classes. But from our class last week, we had this one project where we had a moving cat. Now, our projects are listed here, and what we want to do is we want to click on See Inside, that See Inside button. All right, so from last week, we saw how we changed the backdrop over here, and we put in a custom backdrop, one that we wanted. Yours might be the same as mine, or I said you could pick something different. And we learned about these objects that appear in this section called sprites, and how we could change some things to do with the sprite's code. And we made a code last week that allowed us to move this sprite around with our arrow keys. We click the green flag to start the program, and then we should have been successful moving that sprite left, right, up, and down with arrow keys because of this code that we used over here. Now, we're going to continue today adding another sprite that you're going to get to pick yourself, and we're going to do some different things with it today. And I just did want to mention very quickly, someone last week asked a really good question about saving. So all of you have used Google and things like Google Docs and Google Sheets, and we know that Google saves by itself. Scratch also saves by itself, right? Saves to the cloud or online, the same way that Google does. But one little difference is that it doesn't do it quite as frequently. Google constantly saves really, really fast, right? Every couple of seconds, sometimes before you can even see or think about it, Google is constantly saving all of your changes and everything you do to the internet, to the cloud. Scratch does the same thing, but a little slower. So it might be like save and then wait 30 seconds, wait a minute, and then save. Now, what that means is that you don't have to do anything to save it. But if you make a quick change right now and then close, before it has a chance to save on its own, it may not record that change. So let me just see if I can make it happen. Do you see how I just moved one block over? And I'm not keeping it, but it's for example. And see how this save now text came up right here? That is there to show me that I made a change before it had a chance to save it. It's like a built-in way that we can do a check. And if you see this text up here, before you close or before you stop doing a Scratch project and log off, you can click Save Now so that it can update any changes that you made since it last saved. Let me just give an example and say one time you were working in Scratch, you made some changes, and then you just let that window sit there for a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You would feel pretty confident that it has everything saved and that all your changes are going to be saved. If you make a change, boom, and then close Scratch right now, it could lose things, and so the Save Now button is pretty important for if you need to click it, and that's something to check each time you use Scratch before you close the window. Now, for today, all I really need you to do is check and make sure you have that custom backdrop, and you could always go back using this hourglass or magnifying glass or search tool and pick another backdrop. And then we have the cat sprite that was already there, and the code tab has this code right here. You could pause the video right here if you need to. If any of those steps are missing from what we did last week or not working, compare yours to mine, pause right now, and go and make it so that you're caught up and you have all the same things, because we're about to move on and add in something else for today. Okay, so last week was all about the backdrop and the movement. Today, we are going to see a little bit about costumes and sounds. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to add in another sprite, a second sprite. So here we have our sprite section, sprite 1, our cat. We're going to add in a second sprite by clicking on this button right here, or even just putting our cursor over it, and going to the magnifying glass that says choose a sprite. And you can see that there are tons. There are dozens. Sometimes they're separated by categories. If you know the name of one you're looking for, you could search for it, or you could browse through and see. All right, there are many, many sprites, and each one may look a little different, may have some different qualities about it. One thing I want to point out is that if you put your mouse over top of a sprite and leave it there, it will show you if that sprite has multiple costumes. That means multiple ways that it looks. So as an example, if I put my mouse over the basketball right here, see how there's no motion, nothing happens? That's because if I choose that basketball, it's only one costume. A basketball, that's done, and that's it, and it doesn't look like anything else. But look at this arrow. See, when I put my mouse over this arrow, it shows that it's moving to all different directions and all different positions. The bananas, no other costume. Balloon, other costumes. We are going to look today, and you can pick pretty much any sprite that you would like that already has more than one costume. So if you put your mouse over something, if you see it move or even just change color, like this ball, it's changing color, you can pick that. Right? So I want you to take a look through right now, and I'll look through for a second and then pick one that I like. I'm going to look through right now and I'm going to pick, oh, this chick right here. See how this chick is animated. And when I say animated, it means it's moving or changing colors. And I'm going to pick this chick. Please pick any sprite that you would like that is moving or has different costumes. All right, so I picked that chick and it got added into my project. I see it on the screen there. Now, our cat can move around with the arrow keys. We are not going to have this second sprite move at all. What we're going to do is we're going to have it change costumes, and we are also going to have it make a sound. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at the costumes. So I'm going to come over. Oh, and I want to make sure that I have that sprite selected. I do not want my first sprite, the cat, selected. I want my second sprite. Mine is the chick, whatever yours is. I want that selected, and I'm going to come over here and look in the tab that says costumes right in the middle. Now, I should be able to tell very quickly that this sprite has 3 different costumes. They're called Chick A, Chick B, Chick C. You can look with yours. Yours might have 2. It would have 1 if you picked one with only 1 costume, but I said to try to pick one with more than 1. It might have 2. It might have 3. It could have a couple different number, but what you want to do is you just want to look. You want to see how many it has, and you want to see their names. So mine's Chick A, Chick B, Chick C, right? And I can see the difference in each one. One is kind of normal. The next, the beak or mouth is open, and the next he's bending down. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to create a code that animates that sprite, where it makes it look like that sprite is changing color or moving, just as it could be as the program's run or when something's clicked. For today, we're just going to do it the whole time the program's running. Now, I'm going to go back to my code tab, and I want to add in a series of blocks that will change that animation, and it's really, really simple to do. The first thing I want to do is go to my events section, right, the yellow, and I want to add in that when the green flag is clicked, because when the green flag is clicked, I want something to happen. All right, and next I have to go to control, which we did before, to add in a forever block, because I don't want this animation or the movement to just happen one time. I want it to keep happening over and over and over. All right, so I joined my forever block with my when the green flag is clicked, and I'm making 100% sure I'm doing this on the chick sprite or the second sprite, not on the cat. Now, I want to go, and actually, let's do a little shortcut first. Since I'm in the control section already getting my forever block, I can think ahead and know that I'm actually going to need 3 wait blocks for what I'm planning on doing, because I have 3 costumes that I want to switch to. So I'm going to actually bring my 1, 2, 3 wait blocks over right now, and I'm just leaving them off to the side, not joined to anything, kind of like holding them there since I know I'm going to use them in a minute. So I have my 3 wait blocks, just leaving them to the side, and now I want to look at this purple section that has looks. Okay, I want to see the one that has looks, and I want to go to the one that says, now there's actually 2 that would work for this. Switch costume right here, or next costume. Either of those would actually work. We're just going to use the one that says switch costume to. And that's the first thing we're going to join in our forever block. Now, I see my drop down right here that's going to have those 3 different options for the costume, because whatever costume I want to start with, I'm going to make the first one. So I'm going to make that Chick A. For yours, think about it. Whatever your costumes were named, even if you only had 2 of them, you want to make it the first costume that you want to see. Now, we're actually going to leave the wait blocks over here for a minute because we're going to see why we would want to use them. Let's join our second switch costume block right here. Or again, I could use the next costume block. Either one would work. And for this one, I need to click the drop down and make sure I change it to what I want it to say, Chick B. If you only had 2 costumes, you would basically stop or pause right there. If you have three like me, we're going to add it one more time. If you had four, you would add it two more times. So I'm going to add one more, switch costume two, and this one is Chick C, and that's correct. Now, I have these in my forever block. I have it connected to when the green flag is clicked. But tell me, if I run my program right now, does this look very good? Does this look like a nice animated chick? And it looks like it's moving around, going between the costumes. It doesn't. The reason is I don't have any weights. So it's almost trying to make those three costumes change instantly or faster than the human eye could see. So it doesn't look like anything is happening, right? And it looks pretty boring. It doesn't look interesting. It doesn't look right. Now let's see what happens if I add in my weight blocks. Now, I'm going to add in a weight block between each costume change. One, two, and then one at the very end because this loops around, right? It goes back around, back around, back around. This costume change here, the last one, connects to the first one. So I need a little wait after the last one. And everything is inside of my forever block. Okay? If you had a different number, if you only had two costumes, just take that third weight block away. If you have four costumes, just add in another weight block. And basically what you want is inside the forever block, switch costume, wait, switch costume, wait, switch costume, wait, for however many costumes you have. Now let's check again and click my green flag. Well, now it's doing what I want and I can see this chick moving, but it's kind of slow. It's kind of choppy. I would have to experiment, right? And I already know what we're going to put in, but see how this weight block, each one set to 1 second. 1 second, we generally think of as very short, but for a computer program or for some things, 1 second can be very long. We're going to change that to half of a second or zero point 0.5. The period button, 5 for each one. So I'm going to click, period 5, click out of it. Click the next one, period 5, click out of it, and click the third one, period 5, and click out of it. And what that did is change it instead of waiting half a second between each, instead of waiting 1 second between each costume change, now it's only waiting half a second. Let's check again and see how it looks. So it's a little faster now because I made it less time that it waits between each one. All right, so that's our animation. If you wanted to try, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to take time in the video. If you wanted to try to change this to 0.2, 0.7, 0.4, and see which one you like the best, you could. I would not go any longer than 1 second, and I would not go any shorter than 0.1 seconds. So some number in between there that you think your animation looks the best. The last thing we're going to do for today is we are going to make this sprite make a sound. Okay, this second sprite, this chick. Now, pretty much any sprite that you add in Scratch is going to come with a sound that they've assigned to it. However, you could use that sound or pick any sound from the Scratch library. Plus, there's other ways to upload sounds, record your own sounds. So, I'm selected, my sprite for the chick is selected. And I'm going to look at my third tab called my Sounds tab. Now, if I just leave it as the default sound, this chick makes a chirp, like this. I could leave it like that, and I could be ready to add in my code and be done. Or, if you thought another sound might be better, or you want to see what other sounds are available, you could use this button right here, the magnifying glass again, and you have the the Scratch sound library. There are tons. Now, for what we're going to do right now, we would probably want a sound effect. You'll notice, and I'm just going to say these as kind of two different categories. Some of the sounds are like sound effects, where it's a quick sound. Other ones are more like little songs, where it goes on for a little while. We would want, for today, a quick sound. Something like that. That. Right? Or if I scroll down, we'd want something like this last one with the laugh is actually a little bit longer than I would like. We want something quick. And if you saw what I did, I just put my mouse over the top of that little play button. I don't even have to click it, right? But I'm going to use something funny when I'm ready, and I'm going to use the bark, and I'm going to make that chick bark. There are other things, and they call them loops here, but they're kind of like little songs that I would not want to use. Let me give you an example of what I don't want to use. I don't want to use. Okay, because those songs go on a little bit too long for what we want to happen. But let me go back to my bark now, and you can go and pick bark, or you can pick another one that you like and give it a click. All right, I gave it a click, and now it's one of the sounds that I have to use. I see it here. It's along with the chirp. I could use either one, and we'll see how that looks in a second when we go to code it. So go back to your code tab, and now I'm going to do this pretty quickly, and that's our last step for today. I'm going to add in another event. This time, I'm going to add when, and it says space, key pressed. And we could change this drop down to pretty much any key we want, but I actually want to leave it as the space key. Then I'm going to go to my control section and a forever, actually, I apologize, I don't need a forever block for that. I'm going to go to my sound section, and I'm going to add in play sound bark until done. Now in this drop down, you'll see any sounds that were in this tab over here. So I'll see chirp and bark. If you added more sounds, it could be more options. But here I have bark. I make sure it's selected because it's the one I want. And now, anytime I press my space key, I have a barking chick. And it's kind of funny because, of course, chicks don't bark. So, all of the things that we should be able to do now are press our green flag, have our cat move around with arrow keys, have our chick bark when we press the space key, have a custom background of something we want, and have our, now I say chick, but whatever your second sprite is, have it animated so that it is moving or changing color or something the whole time that it's sitting there and the green flag is pressed. All right, so that is all for today. As my last point, I look up top and I see the Save Now button is here, or the text for Save Now is there. If I need it to save now, I'm going to click that. Oh, to tell you the truth, before I even got to click, did you see it happen? If you watch the video again, as I put my mouse up there, I was just at the right time where Scratch saved it by itself, and that text went away. So I know all of the changes in my project are saved. All right, boys and girls, if you have any questions, if you have any problems, you can let me know, and I will help you out in any way I need to. Also, maybe if you have a chance and feel like, you could tell me if you like Scratch, if you like making things in Scratch, if you like what we've tried so far. And next week, we're going to finish this little sample tutorial up and see if we can make something a little bit fun. All right, I will see you next time. Thank you very much.